It's like a piece here and a piece there. Hello, this is Carrie O'Donnell from Tarot Soul Writer. And if you would like a personal reading with me, please go to my website, tarotsoulwriter.com, press book a session, and I'd be happy to do a reading for you. I'm very excited. I'm getting close to beginning my 2025 predictions. But first, I thought it would be good to do a reflection on how I did last year. So leading up to January 1st, you are going to see a video each day in which I do a reflection on what I got right and what I got wrong for each month. And then we will begin the 2025 predictions in January. I'm so very excited. This is going to be a video that gives some clarity to how I get psychic information and how my brain puts together what I'm getting. This is actually very important in the reflection, so you understand how I got some things wrong or how I got some things correct. So let's start with my process. Ritual is very important to me. I usually start with candle lighting, burning white sage. I say an opening prayer. I invoke the entities that I work with primarily, and I always invoke Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Metatron. And I also work with Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and I call in my own guides that I call the choir. My guides are light beings, or I see them that way, and I see them in a form of robe. And it reminds me of the choir robes that I used to wear when I was in high school. So I ended up calling them the choir. I thought that I was a little crazy seeing my guides this way until I met with a good friend of mine. She's also a healer. And we sat down and had lunch one day, and we did readings for each other just for fun. And I never told her about how I saw my guides. And she said, I see a group and they're in robes. And I was like, oh my God, yes. And from then on, I called them the choir. I also use binary beat music, and I use this to get my brain quiet, and it helps me to get in a meditative state. I'm basically bringing my brave waves into theta, which I feel is a more meditative state. And in this state is where I can get the most information. I pose questions to my guides and I lay out cards. I also write, and the writing helps to also slow down my brain so that I can receive messages. And what is it that I'm actually receiving? I see pictures in my mind's eye like a movie. And then I also get pop culture references that I understand, like scenes from movies that I like or books and plays. Yes, even Shakespearean quotes. As a matter of fact, when I first started reading here on YouTube, people used to joke, maybe one of your guides is Shakespeare, because I constantly got Shakespearean references, especially for the Trump family. I was an English teacher, so this is just my guide's way of working with how I see the world. I get words and phrases that just pop into my consciousness, sometimes using language I normally don't use in real life. And that's how I can differentiate whether it's something I'm making up or something that's coming through. I sometimes hear music and get song lyrics. As a matter of fact, there are a few of you out there who have gotten some private readings from me. And I'll say something like, all right, this random song came into my head. And it's not always songs that are familiar to me, like music that's part of like my childhood or my teenage years. Sometimes it's music from completely different era. I've actually had to look up, like I'll hear the tune, I'll be like, oh yeah, I think I remember that song, but I'll have to actually look it up to get the song lyrics. And that's usually something I'll share with my clients. Most of the information that's coming to me is in visual metaphors, or it is just a metaphor in general. Some of these pictures are recurring in many readings. Like I might get the same type of image or the same reference for certain situations. And that's when I know, oh, when I get this symbol or when I get this scene from a movie, my guides are trying to tell me X. And that's when I start to develop a dictionary, what I call my dictionary. It's a dictionary of words and tunes and references that get used more than once. And it becomes a language that my guides use to speak with me. So this is what's not happening. I'm not having someone whispering in my ear, telling me the whole story. I am not seeing a movie in living color where I know exactly what the story is. It's like pieces. It's like a piece here and a piece there. So this is when I have to become the interpreter. I have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together in order to create the story that I present to you of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. This is where the human part of me can get in the way. This is where errors can occur, because at the end of the day, I have a human brain. So I want to talk a little bit about how the human brain makes sense of information. We all have experiences when we enter the world using the five senses. And that's how we experience the world. And the brain is collecting data on the five senses, or what we're taking in from our senses. And it's creating what we call schema. Schema is an organized way of understanding the world. Kind of think of it like the cartoons when you have little bubbles on the top of your head. And all of those little bubbles could be schema for understanding the world. And this is a true story. So I'll use this as an example. When my son was 2 years old, he saw a cat for the first time. And just like a typical 2-year-old, he was like, "What's that? What's that?" And I said, "That's a kitty cat." And instantly, this 2-year-old who is experiencing the world for the first time is beginning to develop schema for a cat. So it's taking in information like it's furry, it has 4 legs, it has pointy ears, it has whiskers. That's a cat. There's a bubble. Okay, there's some schema. Now, later on in the year, we went to the zoo. He was about the same age, and he saw a tiger for the first time. And instead of saying, "What's that?" he pointed, and what did he say? You know what he said. He said, "Kitty cat." Why? Because he had a schema for a furry creature with 4 legs and pointy ears and whiskers. And that's a kitty cat. And of course, we're laughing because we're like, that's a big kitty cat. We have to make that information more specific for him. So we were like, no, that's not a kitty cat. That's a tiger. He's a big cat. He roars. A little kitty cat, he meows. So we've differentiated information, and now he creates schema for a tiger. New bubble. Furry, 4 legs, pointy ears, whiskers, big, and he roars. We've given more information for kitty cat. He's smaller, and he meows. All right, so, and there are other, obviously, more specific pieces of information that we learn to differentiate between a domestic house cat and a tiger. And later on, we differentiate the tiger from another big cat, say a lion. Tigers have stripes. A lion does not. And so the schema or information becomes more and more specific as we navigate the world. This is how we learn. This is context that we develop for experiencing the world. Why is any of this relevant? When I make predictions, I have all the bubbles in my head of how I experience the world. I have schema for certain things that I understand based on my experiences. So I'm receiving psychic information like the five senses, only this is the sixth sense. So this information is coming in. It's like giant puzzle pieces, like I explained. And now my brain has to take that information and interpret the information based on the schema in my brain for how I've experienced the world. So again, this is when the errors occur, when I can't quite put together the message. Maybe there's something missing in my life experience. Maybe when I put together the pieces of the puzzle, I'm not really seeing the context. I'm not seeing it in the way that I understand. This is what makes psychic work so difficult. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that my guides are always right. In that moment, when they give me information, they are always correct. They are trying to give me a message that I can give to you, and my job is to interpret that message to the best of my ability based on the schema that I have in the brain. They are right. If something goes awry, it is my inability to understand the message that is usually the issue. I'm like my 2-year-old son working with my guides. So they are constantly trying to update my awareness and knowledge of the human experience. They're constantly trying to help me to understand the messages that I'm getting. And each mistake I make is a learning experience so that I can be more aware the next time. I take my psychic work very seriously, and I work really hard to learn and to grow and to be a better vessel for my guides in order to transfer messages to you, the viewer. So remember how I'm getting information, because this may come into play as I reflect on my 2024 predictions. In the next video, we will look at January. See how I did, what I got right, and what I got wrong. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with all your friends. As always, it's a pleasure reading for you, and I'll see you tomorrow as we take a look at January. Bye-bye.